Learn English through story. The Secret Desire of Lust. In the small coastal town of Armor, where the sea kissed the rocky shores and the air was thick with salt, there was a quiet, almost suffocating sense of normalcy. Life in Armor followed a predictable rhythm. Men worked the docks or tended to the fishing boats, women managed their homes, and at night, the town's single tavern filled with laughter, drink, and stories of the day's events. But beneath this surface of respectability, hidden in the shadows of its winding streets and quaint cottages, there was a secret that no one dared to acknowledge. It was said that Armor had a way of revealing people's deepest desires, the ones they kept hidden from themselves. These desires were not whispered in dark corners nor shared in moments of vulnerability. They festered in silence, slowly eating away at the hearts of those who carried them. And it was in this town, with its veneer of tranquility, that the secret desires of lust thrived. At the heart of this quiet turmoil was Isabel. In her mid-30s, Isabel had once been the most desired woman in Armor. Her beauty was the kind that stopped men in their tracks, and her sharp wit and intelligence only added to her allure. But Isabel had long since grown tired of being the object of men's affections. Tired of the whispered propositions and the furtive glances. She had married young, to a man named Nathan, who had promised her stability and a life of comfort. Yet, after nearly 15 years of marriage, the fire that had once burned between them had all but extinguished, leaving behind only ashes. Nathan was a good man, dependable and steady, but he lacked the passion that Isabel craved. Their marriage had settled into a routine of polite conversations and shared meals, but the intimacy that had once drawn them together was gone. Isabel felt trapped, suffocated by the monotony of her life, and though she loved Nathan in her own way, she longed for something more, yes, something wild, something dangerous. That longing, however, was a secret she kept hidden, even from herself. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast the town in a soft, golden light, Isabel wandered down to the shore. The sea had always been her refuge, a place where she could escape the expectations and the judgments of others. As she walked along the rocky beach, her thoughts drifted to the life she might have had, the life she had once dreamed of before she had chosen the path of security over passion. Isabel had always believed that desire was a fleeting thing, something that faded with time, but as she stood there, watching the waves crash against the rocks, she felt a stirring deep within her. It was a familiar feeling, one she had pushed aside for years, but now it surged through her with a force she couldn't ignore. It was a hunger, a need that had been denied for too long. As she stood there, lost in thought, a voice called out to her from behind. "Isabel." She turned to see a man approaching her, his silhouette framed against the setting sun. It was Marcus, the town's blacksmith, a man known for his strength and skill, but also for the quiet, smoldering intensity that seemed to radiate from him. Marcus was a few years younger than Isabel, but there was something about him that had always intrigued her, something dangerous, something primal. "Marcus," Isabel said, her voice steady, though her heart had begun to race. "What brings you here?" He smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that sent a shiver down her spine. "Same thing that brings you, I suppose. The sea has a way of pulling us in, doesn't it?" Isabel nodded, her eyes drifting to the water once more. "Yes, it does." There was a long silence between them, the only sound the rhythmic crashing of the waves. Marcus stepped closer, his presence commanding, and Isabel could feel the heat of his body even though they weren't touching. "Do you ever wonder," Marcus said softly, his voice low, what it would be like to give in to your desires, to stop fighting against what you really want. Isabel's breath caught in her throat. His words struck a chord deep within her, awakening something that had been dormant for far too long. She had always prided herself on her self-control, on her ability to maintain her composure, but now, standing here with Marcus so close, she felt the control slipping away. Desires can be dangerous, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus chuckled, a dark, rich sound that sent a thrill through her. Yes, they can, but sometimes danger is exactly what we need. Isabel's heart pounded in her chest as she turned to look at him. His eyes were dark, full of intensity, and she could see the desire there, plain as day. It was a desire that mirrored her own, a desire she had kept hidden for too long. For a brief moment, Isabel allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to give in, to let herself be swept away by the tide of her own longing. The thought was intoxicating, exhilarating even, but it was also terrifying. She had spent so many years denying herself, building walls around her heart, that the idea of tearing them down felt like a risk she wasn't sure she was ready to take. And yet, standing there with Marcus, the temptation was almost unbearable. Isabel, Marcus said, his voice soft yet commanding. You don't have to pretend with me. I see you. I know what you want, what you need. Let me give it to you. His words were like a key turning in a lock, and Isabel felt something inside her give way. She had spent so long pretending, so long denying her own desires, but now, in this moment, with Marcus standing so close, she realized she couldn't keep lying to herself. She did want him. She wanted the danger, the passion, the wildness that had been missing from her life for so long. But what would it cost her? Isabel took a step back, her mind racing. Nathan, her marriage, the life she had built. Could she really risk it all for a fleeting moment of passion? Could she let herself be consumed by the fire that Marcus was offering? I can't, she whispered, her voice trembling. I can't do this. Marcus's expression softened, but the intensity in his eyes didn't waver. You can, he said gently, you just have to decide what you want more, safety or desire, comfort or passion. You can keep living the life you've always lived, or you can have something real, something that sets your soul on fire. Isabel felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had always thought of herself as strong, as someone who could control her emotions, but now she realized how fragile that control really was. She wanted Marcus, wanted the passion and the danger he represented, but the thought of losing everything she had built with Nathan was too much to bear. I need time, she said, her voice barely audible. Marcus nodded, his gaze never leaving hers. I'll be here, he said softly, whenever you're ready. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Isabel alone with the sea and the storm of emotions swirling inside her. For days, Isabel wrestled with her feelings. She tried to lose herself in her routine, in the tasks that had once brought her comfort, but nothing felt the same. Every time she looked at Nathan, she felt a pang of guilt, a reminder of the secret she was carrying. But the desire for Marcus, the longing that had been awakened in her, refused to be ignored. It gnawed at her, day and night, until it was all she could think about. One evening, as she sat in front of the fire with Nathan, she felt the weight of her secret pressing down on her. Nathan was talking about something at the fishing boats or the weather. She wasn't sure, but she wasn't listening. All she could think about was Marcus, about the way he had looked at her, the way he had made her feel alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. Suddenly, The words were spilling out of her before she could stop them. "Nathan," she said, her voice shaky, "we need to talk." Nathan looked at her, his brow furrowing in concern. "What is it?" Isabel took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "I've been feeling a broken bar, disconnected from us, from you. And there's something I need to tell you." Nathan's expression softened, and he reached out to take her hand. "Isabel, whatever it is, we can work through it. We've been through tough times before, and we've always come out stronger." But Isabel shook her head. "This is different. I don't know how to explain it, but I've been feeling something I can't ignore anymore, and I don't know what to do about it." Nathan was silent for a long moment, his eyes searching hers. "Is there someone else?" he asked quietly. Isabel's throat tightened, and she felt the tears welling up in her eyes. She hadn't wanted to hurt Nathan, hadn't wanted to shatter the life they had built together, but now there was no turning back. "Yes," she whispered. "There is." Nathan's hand dropped from hers, and the pain in his eyes was like a knife to her heart. "Isabelle, broken bar. I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I never wanted this to happen. I love you, Nathan, I do, but there's a part of me that's been missing for so long, and I don't know how to get it back. I don't know how to be the woman you deserve anymore." For a long time, Nathan didn't say anything. The silence between them was heavy, filled with the weight of everything that had been left unsaid for too long. Finally, Nathan stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the dark night. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, resigned. "Isabel, I've always known you wanted more. I've seen it in your eyes, in the way you look at me. I've known for a long time that I'm not enough for you, but I thought a broken bar, I thought we could make it work. I thought you would choose us." Tears streamed down Isabel's face as she listened to his words, the guilt and shame consuming her. She had chosen them, once, but now, standing at this crossroads, she realized that the choice wasn't that simple anymore. "I'm so sorry," she whispered again. Nathan turned to look at her, and the sadness in his eyes was almost unbearable. "I know," he said softly. "I know." That night, as Isabel lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, she felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her. She had broken something that could never be repaired, and now, she was left with the consequences. The next day, Isabel left Armor. She didn't go to Marcus. She didn't know where she was going. All she knew was that she couldn't stay. The desire that had once burned so brightly inside her had led her to this moment, and now, she had to face the reality of what it had cost her. Desire, she had learned, was a powerful force. It could consume you, drive you to make choices you never thought possible. But in the end, it was a force that could never be satisfied, never be tamed. As Isabel walked away from the life she had known, she realized that the secret desire of lust, once unleashed, could never be contained. And though it had brought her moments of passion, moments of feeling alive, it had also left her standing alone, at the edge of a life she could never return to. Some desires, she now understood, were better left in the shadows. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.